Hey neighbor, it's Jim. Thanks for your time. I'm using this YouTube channel to spread my ideas about neighborly politics, about how America bridges the divisions between our states and cultures, and how we can keep those bridges healthy. When we think about politics, we often do so through political ideology. So in order to be neighborly, we need to understand that ideology. We can't really discuss politics without it. We have to understand what ideologies we believe in and what tribes we create because of them. However, the ideological spectrum, separated into categories like conservative and progressive, isn't the only important thing here. There's one more vital spectrum that we need to discuss. That's the methodological spectrum. Picture a graph with x and y axes, like you used to use to graph functions in math class. The horizontal axis shows the ideological spectrum, and the vertical axis shows the methodological spectrum. This creates four broad categories of political thought: conservative liberals, conservative authoritarians, progressive authoritarians, and progressive liberals. Let's look at each spectrum individually. First, the ideological spectrum. Most everyone knows that progressives and conservatives disagree with each other, but few take the time to find out why. Picture a garden that needs a lot of work. There are vegetables, flowers, a few trees, some shrubs, and a lot of weeds. Some of the plants are healthy, others obviously aren't, and some are borderline. The team of gardeners has only so much time in the day and only a finite amount of resources, so they start arguing about what to do. Should they concentrate on saving as many plants as they can, or should they concentrate on replacing as many plants as they can with better, healthier ones? In the broadest sense, conservatives believe that we should spend most of our time and efforts preserving and conserving the beautiful things we already have. We look at America and we see some good things. We see the good life. We want these things to thrive, so we spend our time and effort investing in those things. Progressives, on the other hand, see things a little differently. They see things that ought to be changed and want to spend our national efforts to make these things more beautiful by replacing unhealthy plants with other healthier plants. Now, I'm a conservative, so I believe the former, but here's my point. Reasonable people can believe both ways. It's reasonable to see a beautiful thing and want to work hard to keep it healthy. It's equally reasonable to see an unhealthy thing and want to replace it. It's also possible for unreasonable people to believe in either ideology, though typically they're mostly found at the far extremes. Finally, this is a true spectrum. Often people will vary in how conservative or progressive they are, depending on the issue. Additionally, people are often centrist and will try to conserve the beautiful and change the unjust equally. Now let's go to the other spectrum, the liberal/authoritarian or methodological spectrum. The ideological spectrum tells us what a person wants to do, while the methodological spectrum tells us how they want to do it. Does a person want to protect or change social structures through rigid rules or enforced unanimity? That's authoritarian. Does a person want to nurture the beautiful things or unroot the unjust things while respecting individual freedom and expression? That's liberal. Let's go back to our gardening example. Imagining that part of the gardeners wants to make the garden look very well manicured, with plants in exactly the right spots, not overgrown, not sickly, just right. There's a certain beauty to that type of garden, evenly spaced flowers interspersed with well-kept pathways. Another group of gardeners wants something more natural, with plants closer together, wilder, and even competing. Each plant is still valued and nurtured, but in a way that allows them to exist naturally. This too is a kind of beauty. This is essentially the liberal authoritarian debate. Should our social norms be well guarded and more rigid? There's a certain beauty to that kind of unified effort. Patriotism and unity can bring us a lot of safety and security. On the other hand, good can also come if our social norms allow for more individual adaptation. Diversity and competition at the marketplace of ideas is a wilder form of social beauty that can respect individual variation. Now, with a name like authoritarian, it may seem like it would be unreasonable for anyone to advocate for it. It seems too much like fascism or communism. But like the ideological spectrum, this one can also have reasonable people on both sides, and unreasonable people at each extreme. It's reasonable to want to have law and order, to want the safety and security that enforcing social norms brings. It's also reasonable to want to have individual freedoms and rights, and to want to give those to others. This spectrum is less discussed, and as a result, people often misunderstand something. Sometimes your party ally is not your friend, and sometimes your partisan opponent is. This is where our two-party political system often fails us. We're making tribes based solely on ideology and forgetting methodology. As a result, sometimes we end up demonizing neighbors who are politically closer to us than some of our ideological allies. So what can we do? To start, here's a homework assignment for you. Either in the chat below or on your Facebook or other social media page, assess and share which broad area of political thought you believe in, and pay specific attention to the methodological spectrum. This might also change depending on the issue. Are you a conservative liberal, a conservative authoritarian, a progressive authoritarian, or a progressive liberal? Or are you some form of centrist? Whatever you are, be reasonable. Accept that your neighbors, most of whom are acting in good faith, may disagree with you, and that's okay. Don't call people names or question their motives. Just try to understand, try to learn, and that will keep the Weiser Bridge traffic flowing. Thanks, and God bless.